The crash. The stars shimmered like scattered diamonds against the deep velvet of space. The alien queen, Lara, sat on the bridge of her sleek starship, gliding smoothly through the cosmos. Her homeworld, Valoria, was known across the galaxy for its advanced technology and breathtaking beauty. But now, as she stared at the star maps before her, something felt off. Suddenly, alarms blared, and the starship shuddered violently. Lara's heart raced as she gripped her chair, her sharp eyes scanning the control panels. "What's happening?" she demanded. Her voice was calm, but her face betrayed her worry. The ship's eye, a soothing female voice, responded. "Warning. Enemy vessel detected. Shields failing." Before Lara could react, a powerful jolt threw her across the room. The ship's viewports shattered, and debris flew everywhere. The alarms intensified, and a red light bathed the room in an eerie glow. Panic spread among the crew as they scrambled to their stations, trying to regain control. Lara's mind raced. She knew they were under attack, but didn't understand why. The enemy ship appeared out of nowhere, a shadowy silhouette against the black void. It fired relentlessly, its energy blasts tearing through the ship's defenses. The Queen's calm demeanor shattered as the ship's systems began to fail. "Prepare for emergency landing," Lara ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. She knew that if they couldn't get the ship under control, they would crash. Her crew worked furiously, trying to stabilize the ship's descent. In a matter of moments, the ship was plummeting toward an unknown planet. Lara's heart pounded as she braced herself for impact. The viewports were now obscured by smoke and fire, and the ground below seemed to rush up with terrifying speed. With a deafening crash, the ship slammed into the planet's surface. The force of the impact threw Lara against the control panel, and everything went dark. When she regained consciousness, the once gleaming interior of the starship was a twisted wreck. Sparks flew from broken wires, and the air was filled with the acrid smell of burning metal. The ship's emergency lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows across the ruined interior. Lara slowly got to her feet, her head spinning. She looked around, trying to assess the damage. The control panels were shattered, and the ship's hull was breached in several places. The atmosphere outside was hazy and filled with dust. She realized they had crash-landed on a planet that was far from the advanced world she was used to. With a grim determination, Lara activated her communicator, hoping to contact any nearby ships or bases. Static crackled, but there was no response. Her situation was dire. She needed to assess the damage and find a way to signal for help. Stepping outside, Lara was struck by the stark contrast between her ship's advanced technology and the primitive surroundings. The planet's landscape was rough and untamed. Tall grasses waved in the breeze, and the sky was overcast with dark clouds. The air was thick and heavy, making it hard to breathe. "Where am I?" Lara muttered to herself, her voice filled with frustration. She scanned her surroundings, hoping to find something that could help her repair the ship or at least provide some clues about this strange world. As she ventured further from the wreckage, Lara saw what appeared to be a small settlement in the distance. It looked almost medieval, with wooden structures and simple buildings. This was not the kind of place she expected to find any advance help. The Queen's thoughts raced as she walked toward the settlement. She wondered if the inhabitants could assist her, or if she would be forced to rely on her own resources to survive. Either way, she knew she had to act quickly. Her ship was in critical condition, and every passing moment increased her chances of being stranded on this primitive planet. Approaching the settlement, Lara was met with wary eyes and whispers. The locals seemed to recognize that she was different and out of place. They watched her with a mix of curiosity and fear. Lara tried to communicate, but the language barrier was apparent. She needed help, but how could she get it from people who couldn't understand her? Desperation grew within her. The Queen knew that time was running out. Her only option was to find a way to repair her ship and send a distress signal before it was too late. She was far from home, and the unknown dangers of this primitive world loomed around her. With a deep breath, Lara turned back toward the wreckage of her ship. She had to make the best of her situation and find a way to get help, no matter how strange or primitive the world around her might be. The crash was just the beginning of a challenging journey, and she was determined to face it head-on. The human hero. On a quiet day in a small town on Earth, Jake Harper was going about his usual routine. The sun was shining, and the air was crisp. Jake, a mechanic by trade, enjoyed the simple pleasures of life. He worked in a small garage at the edge of town, fixing cars and enjoying the peace of his surroundings. As Jake was finishing up a routine repair on an old pickup truck, he noticed a strange fiery streak in the sky. It was an unusual sight, something he had never seen before. Curiosity piqued. He wiped his hands on a rag and looked up, squinting against the bright sun. The streak grew brighter and more intense until it seemed to crash somewhere beyond the hills. Intrigued, Jake decided to investigate. He grabbed his jacket and a flashlight, then hopped into his trusty old Jeep. The drive took him over rugged terrain and through thick forest. The closer he got to the crash site, the more he could see smoke billowing in the distance. After a short drive, Jake arrived at the edge of a clearing. What he saw left him stunned. In the middle of the clearing was a massive, twisted wreckage of a ship. The metal was scorched and deformed, and the air around it was filled with the smell of burnt fuel. Jake approached cautiously, his flashlight casting eerie shadows on the wreckage. The sight of the ruined ship was both fascinating and frightening. He had never seen anything like it before. As he got closer, he noticed the ship had an odd, sleek design that was unlike anything from Earth. "Hello? Is anyone here?" Jake called out, his voice echoing through the clearing. There was no immediate response. The wreckage seemed to be deserted, but Jake wasn't sure if that was a good thing. As he explored the ship's exterior, Jake saw a damaged hatch that was slightly ajar. He hesitated for a moment, then pushed it open carefully. The interior was a mess of twisted metal and broken technology. The ship's systems were clearly damaged beyond recognition. "Anyone alive in here?" Jake called again, his voice filled with concern. Just as he was about to give up, he heard a faint groan from deeper within the wreckage. He followed the sound, stepping over debris and broken parts. In a dark corner of the ship he found her. The alien queen, Lara, was lying on the floor, her regal clothing torn and dirty. She looked weak and disoriented. Jake's heart went out to her, despite the strange appearance of her alien features. "Are you okay?" Jake asked, crouching beside her. Lara looked up with confusion and fear in her eyes. She tried to speak, but her words were garbled and unintelligible. Jake could see she was hurt and needed help. Without hesitation, he gently helped her to a sitting position. "I'm going to get you out of here," he said reassuringly. He noticed the strange, glowing device strapped to her wrist and decided to keep it safe, knowing it might be important. With great effort, Jake managed to support Lara and help her out of the wreckage. They made their way to the Jeep, where Jake carefully laid her down in the back seat. He drove back to his garage, hoping the familiar surroundings would provide some comfort and safety. At the garage, Jake carefully carried Lara inside and laid her on an old couch. He examined her injuries and found she had some cuts and bruises, but seemed to be in better shape than when he first found her. He cleaned her wounds as best as he could with the supplies he had on hand. Lara watched him with wary eyes, still unable to communicate effectively. Jake tried to make her comfortable, offering her water and some food, but she only looked at it with confusion. He decided to try a different approach. Using his phone, he attempted to translate some basic phrases into a universal language app, hoping to make communication easier. As the hours passed, Jake did his best to keep Lara calm and comfortable. He couldn't understand her language, but he could see the gratitude in her eyes. Despite the odd circumstances, he felt a growing sense of responsibility to help her. The next morning, Lara's condition had improved slightly. She seemed more alert and responsive. Jake continued to try and communicate, using simple gestures and the translation app. Slowly, they began to understand each other's intentions. Tilara managed to convey that she needed to repair her ship, but she was still too weak to do so on her own. Jake knew he had to help. He offered his tools and skills, and together they began to assess the damage to the ship. Though the language barrier was challenging, Jake's hands-on experience and Tilara's advanced knowledge created a unique synergy. They'd worked side by side, trying to piece together what they could. Jake marveled at the advanced technology of the ship, which was far beyond anything he had ever seen. Tilara's occasional gestures and expressions of frustration gave him clues on what needed fixing. As the days went by, their partnership grew stronger, and Jake started to understand the seriousness of the situation. Through it all, Jake remained dedicated to helping Tilara. He knew that despite her alien appearance and mysterious technology, she was in need of his help. And in the quiet moments between repairs, he couldn't help but feel a growing sense of camaraderie with her. The human hero had taken on a challenge far beyond anything he had ever imagined, and he was determined to see it through. Adjusting to Earth. As the days passed, Tilara and Jake settled into a routine. The alien queen's injuries were healing, and the ship repairs were progressing, though slowly. Tilara, still weak but determined, had to adjust to the strange world she had crash-landed on. Jake, on the other hand, found himself more deeply involved in the situation than he ever expected. One morning, Jake entered the garage to find Tilara struggling to make a simple meal using the few supplies he had. Her attempts at cooking were comically unsuccessful. Flour and spilled milk coated the counter, and she stared at the stove with a mixture of confusion and frustration. "Need some help?" Jake asked with a chuckle, setting down a box of tools. He had noticed that while Tilara was brilliant with advanced technology, she was quite out of her depth with Earth's basics. Tilara looked up, her expression a mix of relief and embarrassment. "Yes, please. I have no idea how to use these kitchen devices." Jake smiled and took over the cooking. "It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Let me show you." As he worked, Jake explained the basics of cooking and using the kitchen appliances. Tilara watched intently, trying to grasp the new concepts. Despite her initial struggles, she was a quick learner, absorbing every bit of information Jake shared. After a successful breakfast, Tilara seemed more relaxed. She and Jake sat down to eat, and Jake took the opportunity to explain more about Earth. He told her about its cultures, languages, and customs, simplifying things as much as possible. Tilara listened carefully, her alien eyes wide with curiosity. "Your planet is so different from what I am used to," she said, her voice still tinged with an accent but clearer than before. "The technology is so simple compared to mine." Jake laughed softly. "Yeah, we're a bit behind in some ways, but we get by. It's a nice place, though, once you get used to it." The days turned into weeks, and Tilara started to adapt to her new environment. She became more comfortable with Earth's technology, learning to use Jake's tools and gadgets with increasing proficiency. In turn, Jake started to understand more about her advanced equipment and the alien language, thanks to Tilara's explanations. One day, Jake took Tilara to the local market, wanting her to experience more of Earth's everyday life. The bustling market was a mix of colors, smells, and sounds. Tilara's eyes widened as she took in the sights: the vibrant fruits and vegetables, the chatter of vendors, and the rich aroma of various foods were all new and exciting. "Everything is so alive here," Tilara remarked, her voice filled with wonder. "It's different from the sterile environments of my world." Jake nodded. "Yeah, it's a bit chaotic, but that's part of the charm. People are friendly, though they might stare a bit since you look different." Tilara smiled, appreciating the gesture. "Thank you, Jake, for everything. I know it's been challenging." Jake shrugged. "It's no problem. You've been a good guest, Plus, it's not every day you get to help an alien queen. Their trip to the market also allowed Lara to practice interacting with people. Though she still struggled with the language, she made an effort to communicate and learn more about Earth's customs. The locals were curious and polite, and they welcomed her with friendly smiles. Back at the garage, Lara and Jake continued their work on the ship. They encountered various problems, but they tackled each one together. Jake's practical knowledge and Lara's advanced skills complemented each other perfectly. They began to appreciate each other's strengths, and their partnership became more effective. One evening, as they worked on the ship, Lara paused and looked at Jake. "You know, Jake, I've learned a lot from you, not just about your technology, but about your way of life. Your resilience, your kindness, it's all very inspiring." Jake smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "I've learned a lot from you too, Lara. Your determination and knowledge are impressive. It's been quite an adventure." Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. They shared stories about their lives, their worlds, and their experiences. Despite their differences, they found common ground in their shared struggles and triumphs. One day, as Lara worked on recalibrating the ship's communication system, she stopped and looked at Jake. Do you think the people of Earth would ever understand the universe beyond their planet?" Jake looked thoughtful. "I think so. Earth's got a lot of potential. Maybe one day we'll be ready to explore the stars ourselves." Lara nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. "I hope so. Your planet has a lot to offer. And maybe someday we'll all be able to work together." As the repairs on the ship neared completion, Lara and Jake both knew their time together was coming to an end. But their journey had been more than just about fixing a ship. It was about understanding each other and bridging the gap between two very different worlds. Jake had helped Lara adjust to Earth, and in return, she had shown him a glimpse of the universe beyond. Their adventure had forged a unique friendship, one that neither of them would soon forget. New threat. The repairs on Lara's ship were nearly complete. Jake and Lara had worked tirelessly, and the once damaged vessel was beginning to look whole again. They had grown used to their daily routines, and their mutual respect and camaraderie had deepened. The garage had become a second home for Lara, and Jake's small town had become a place of unexpected adventure. One evening, as Jake was organizing tools and Lara was fine-tuning the ship's systems, a strange signal crackled through the air. It was faint but unmistakable, a warning beacon from the ship's communication system. Lara's eyes widened as she recognized the signal. "What is it?" Jake asked, noticing the change in her expression. "It's a distress signal," Lara replied, her voice tinged with concern. "It's coming from my ship." Jake hurried over to her side. "What does it mean?" Lara quickly accessed the ship's console, her fingers flying over the controls. The signal was indeed a distress call, but it was different from any normal signal. It was encrypted and contained coded messages that Lara had never seen before. "This is bad," Lara said, her voice grim. "It's a warning from my people. Something must have happened back on Valoria." Jake's eyes were filled with worry. "What can we do?" Lara took a deep breath. "We need to decode this message and find out what's happening. But first, we have to get ready. If my enemies are involved, they could be dangerous." The urgency in her voice was clear. They worked together to decode the message, which revealed troubling news. An unknown force had attacked Valoria, and there were reports of a new threat that could endanger not just her planet, but potentially others as well. The message hinted at a powerful enemy force, one that had been searching for Lara and her ship. "We need to act quickly," Lara said, her eyes determined. "I have to return to Valoria and help defend my world. But I can't do it alone." Jake nodded, his expression resolute. "I'm coming with you. We've come this far together, and I'm not going to let you face this alone." Lara looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you, Jake. I appreciate your bravery, but we need to be careful. This enemy is dangerous and highly advanced. They spent the night preparing for the journey. Lara equipped the ship with additional supplies and made sure all systems were operational. Jake gathered tools and essentials, determined to be as prepared as possible. Despite the seriousness of their mission, they shared moments of camaraderie, discussing their plans and reinforcing their bond. The following morning, they were ready to leave. Lara and Jake climbed into the ship, and with a final check of the controls, they launched into the sky. The ship soared through the atmosphere, leaving Earth behind as they ventured into the unknown. The journey through space was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. Jake gazed out of the viewport, marveling at the vastness of the universe. Lara, focused and determined, navigated the ship through the stars, heading towards her home world. As they approached Valoria, Lara's home planet came into view. It was a breathtaking sight, with its vibrant colors and advanced cities gleaming against the backdrop of space. But the beauty of the planet was marred by the sight of dark clouds and smoke rising from several locations. Lara's heart sank. They started their attack. We need to land and help immediately. The ship descended towards the surface, landing in a secluded area near one of the main cities. Lara and Jake exited the ship, taking in the chaotic scene around them. The city was in ruins, with debris scattered everywhere and smoke billowing from damaged buildings. Lara's eyes scanned the area, searching for signs of her people. We need to find out where the main fighting is taking place and assist in any way we can. As they moved through the city, they encountered groups of Valorians fighting back against the attackers. The alien soldiers, although advanced, were struggling against the powerful enemy forces. Lara's presence was met with a mix of relief and surprise. Lara, you're here, a familiar voice called out. It was Commander Raynar, a trusted ally of Lara. He rushed over, his face a mixture of relief and worry. We're facing a new enemy, one we've never encountered before. They're powerful and relentless. Lara nodded. I've seen the distress signal. We need to regroup and come up with a plan. Jake, observing the scene, felt a surge of determination. He saw the chaos and knew he had to do everything he could to help. He worked alongside the Valorian forces, using his mechanical skills to assist with repairs and improvisations. As Lara and Jake coordinated with the Valorian forces, they realized that the enemy was using advanced technology and tactics that were beyond anything they had faced before. The new threat was a formidable challenge, and the battle for Valoria was far from over. Lara and Jake's teamwork proved invaluable. They combined their skills and knowledge to fight back against the enemy forces. The struggle was intense, but their resolve remained strong. They knew that the fate of Valoria, and possibly more, rested on their shoulders. As the battle raged on, Lara and Jake faced their greatest challenge yet. The new threat was a powerful enemy, and the fight to save Valoria had just begun. The battle. The atmosphere was tense as Lara, Jake, and the Valorian forces prepared for the battle that would determine the fate of their world. The enemy, a powerful and unknown force, had laid waste to much of the city, and the fighting was fierce. Lara's heart raced as she looked out over the chaos, her mind focused on the task at hand. Jake, we need to secure the main command center, Lara said, her voice steady despite the urgency. That's where we can coordinate our forces and make a real impact. Jake nodded, gripping his blaster tightly. Lead the way. I'm with you. They moved swiftly through the damaged city, dodging blasts and navigating through the wreckage. The enemy forces were relentless, using advanced weapons and tactics that kept the Valorians on the defensive. The sky was filled with the sounds of explosions and the acrid smell of smoke. As they approached the command center, they saw that it was heavily fortified. Enemy soldiers guarded the entrance, their weapons aimed at anyone who dared to approach. Lara and Jake took cover behind a ruined building, observing the situation. We need a distraction, Lara said, her eyes scanning the area, something to draw their attention away from the command center. Jake thought for a moment, and then had an idea. What if we set up a few traps? I can rig some explosives to create a diversion. Tilara nodded, appreciating the plan. Good idea. I'll cover you while you work. Jake set to work, carefully preparing the explosives. Meanwhile, Tilara provided cover fire, her blaster firing in precise bursts to keep the enemy soldiers at bay. The Valorian forces, seeing the coordinated effort, began to regroup and push back against the attackers. Jake finished setting the traps and joined Tilara behind cover. All set. Now we just need to set them off. Tilara gave him a nod, and they moved into position. Jake activated the explosives, and a series of deafening explosions rocked the area. The enemy soldiers were thrown into confusion, their focus diverted away from the command center. Taking advantage of the chaos, Tilara and Jake advanced toward the command center. They fought their way through the enemy lines, their movements synchronized and efficient. The Valorian forces, inspired by the sudden turn of events, rallied and pushed forward with renewed determination. Inside the command center, the battle was no less intense. Enemy forces had breached the building and were engaged in close-quarters combat with the Valorians. Tilara and Jake made their way through the corridors, fighting off enemy soldiers and rescuing trapped Valorians along the way. As they reached the central control room, they found the enemy commander, a towering figure clad in dark armor, issuing orders and coordinating the attack. Tilara's eyes narrowed with determination. "There he is," she said to Jake. "We need to take him down to disrupt their command." Jake nodded, his grip tightening on his weapon. "Let's do this." They burst into the control room, catching the enemy commander by surprise. The room erupted into a fierce battle as Tilara and Jake engaged the enemy forces. The commander fought back with fierce skill, his advanced weaponry making him a formidable opponent. Tilara and Jake fought with everything they had, their movements a well-coordinated dance of strategy and skill. Despite their best efforts, the enemy commander proved to be a tough adversary, using advanced technology and tactics to keep them at bay. Just when it seemed like the tide might turn against them, a group of Valorian reinforcements arrived. They charged into the control room, adding their firepower to the fight. The combined effort overwhelmed the enemy forces, and the commander was finally subdued. With their leader defeated, the remaining enemy soldiers began to retreat. The Valorian forces took advantage of the situation, pushing the attackers out of the city and regaining control. The battle was won, but the cost was high. As the smoke cleared and the sounds of combat faded, Tilara and Jake stood among the ruins of the command center. Tilara looked around, her expression a mix of relief and sadness. "We did it," she said, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "But there's much to rebuild." Jake placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You fought bravely, Tilara, and we made a difference." Tilara nodded, her gaze sweeping over the damaged city. "Yes, but there is still work to be done. My people will need help to rebuild and recover." Jake nodded in agreement. "I'm ready to help however I can." As they made their way outside, they were greeted by the grateful Valorian citizens. Their faces were filled with relief and appreciation, and Tilara and Jake were hailed as heroes. Despite the destruction and loss, there was a sense of hope and determination among the people. The battle had been a hard-fought victory, but it had also forged stronger bonds between Tilara, Jake, and the Valorians. Together, they had faced a new threat and emerged victorious. As they looked towards the future, they knew that their fight was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The skies over Valoria were beginning to clear, and the first rays of sunlight began to shine through the clouds. It was a new day, and with it came the promise of rebuilding, healing, and hope for a brighter future. Aftermath. The battle had been fierce, but the dawn brought a sense of calm to the battered city of Valoria. As the sun rose over the horizon, it cast a warm, hopeful light on the ruins of the command center and the once damaged city. The enemy forces had been pushed back, But the scars of the conflict were evident everywhere. Tilara and Jake surveyed the damage, their faces reflecting both relief and weariness. They walked through the streets, where Valorian soldiers and civilians alike were working to clear debris and assess the destruction. "We've made a difference," Tilara said quietly, her gaze lingering on the rebuilding efforts. "But there is so much to be done." Jake nodded in agreement. "The city looks better already. People are coming together to fix what's been broken." The Valorians were busy setting up temporary shelters, treating the wounded, and repairing damaged buildings. Tilara's presence was a source of encouragement for her people. They looked to her with gratitude and admiration, thankful for her bravery and leadership. As they walked, Tilara was approached by Commander Ragnar. His expression was solemn but filled with respect. "Tilara, we owe you and Jake a great debt. Your actions saved countless lives and helped us reclaim our city." Tilara smiled wearily. "We were just doing what needed to be done. We couldn't have succeeded without the bravery of your people and Jake's help." Ragnar nodded. "Indeed, we will need time to recover, but we will rebuild stronger than before. Your assistance has proven invaluable." Jake, standing beside Tilara, watched the scene with a mixture of pride and fatigue. "What's the plan now?" he asked. Ragnar turned to him. "First, we need to assess the full extent of the damage and ensure all wounded are cared for. We'll also need to address the remnants of the enemy forces and any lingering threats. After that, we can begin the process of rebuilding." Tilara placed a reassuring hand on Ragnar's shoulder. "We'll help with whatever is needed. Let us know how we can assist in the recovery efforts." As they continued their tour of the city, Tilara and Jake encountered many Valorians, including families searching for loved ones and citizens working to restore their homes. The resilience and determination of the people were evident, and their spirit provided a glimmer of hope amidst the ruins. Later that day, Tilara and Jake were invited to a small gathering organized to honor their contributions. The event took place in a newly cleared area of the city, where a makeshift stage had been set up. The Valorians gathered to celebrate the victory and pay tribute to the heroes who had fought for their freedom. Tilara and Jake stood at the front of the crowd as Ragnar addressed the assembly. His voice was filled with emotion as he spoke of the bravery and sacrifice displayed during the battle. "Today, we come together not just to celebrate our victory, but to honor those who stood with us in our darkest hour. Tilara and Jake have shown incredible courage and selflessness, and we are forever grateful." The crowd erupted in applause, and Tilara and Jake were given ceremonial medals as symbols of their heroism. Tilara accepted hers with a smile, her eyes glistening with emotion. She glanced at Jake, who looked equally touched by the recognition. "This is more than I ever expected," Jake said, his voice filled with appreciation. "It's an honor to be part of something so meaningful." Tilara nodded. "It's a testament to the strength of the Valorian people and the power of working together." As the celebration continued, Tilara and Jake mingled with the Valorians, sharing stories and forging new friendships. The mood was one of camaraderie and optimism, despite the challenges that lay ahead. In the days that followed, Tilara and Jake continued to assist in the recovery efforts. They worked alongside Valorian engineers and volunteers to repair infrastructure, clear debris, and provide support where it was needed most. Their efforts were met with gratitude and admiration from the community. The rebuilding process was slow but steady. The city began to show signs of recovery, and the once ruined streets were gradually transformed into thriving areas of activity. Tilara's leadership and Jake's assistance played a crucial role in the restoration of Valoria. One evening, as they took a break from their work, Tilara and Jake sat on a hill overlooking the city. The view was serene, with the city lights sparkling in the distance and the stars shining brightly above. "I'm proud of what we've accomplished," Tilara said, her voice filled with contentment. "Valoria is on the path to recovery, and it's thanks to the efforts of everyone involved." Jake nodded, his expression thoughtful. It's been a challenging journey, but it's been worth it. We've made a real difference here. Tilara looked at him, her eyes reflecting gratitude. Thank you, Jake. Your help has been invaluable, and I couldn't have done this without you. Jake smiled. And thank you, Tilara, for giving me the chance to be part of something so extraordinary. As they sat together, looking out over the city they had helped save, they knew that their bond had grown stronger through the trials they had faced. The aftermath of the battle had brought them closer, and they were ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. Valoria was healing, and with each passing day, the scars of the conflict were fading. The city and its people were moving forward, driven by hope and the determination to build a better future. And as Tilara and Jake continued their journey together, they knew that they had found not only a new purpose but also a deep and lasting friendship. A new beginning. The city of Valoria had been slowly but steadily rebuilding after the battle. The once destroyed areas were being restored, and the people were finding their way back to normalcy. The atmosphere was filled with hope and a sense of new beginnings. Tilara and Jake had played crucial roles in this recovery, and their bond had only grown stronger through their shared experiences. One sunny morning, Tilara and Jake stood at the edge of the city, looking out over a newly constructed park. The park was a symbol of the city's renewal, a place where families could come together and enjoy moments of peace and joy. Children were playing, and the laughter of the community filled the air. This park looks amazing, Jake said, smiling as he watched the children run around. It's hard to believe this place was just rubble a few weeks ago. Tilara nodded, her eyes filled with pride. It's a reminder of how resilient and determined our people are. Even after such devastation, they've come together to create something beautiful. As they walked through the park, they were greeted by familiar faces. The Valorian citizens approached them with smiles and words of thanks. It was clear that the city's recovery was not just about physical rebuilding, but also about restoring the spirit of the community. Among the crowd was a young Valorian woman named Lyra. She had been one of the many people who had helped during the recovery efforts. She approached Tilara and Jake with a bright smile. Tilara, Jake, I wanted to thank you both again for everything you've done. Lyra said, her voice full of gratitude. Your efforts have truly made a difference in our lives. Tilara smiled warmly. It's been an honor to be part of this journey. Seeing the city come back to life is the best reward we could ask for. Jake added, we couldn't have done it without the support and hard work of everyone here. It's been a team effort. Lyra nodded. I'm glad you feel that way. We've learned so much from working with you, and it's made us all stronger. As they continued their stroll through the park, Tilara and Jake found a quiet spot by a newly constructed fountain. They sat on a bench, taking a moment to reflect on the past few weeks. The fountain's gentle, flowing water provided a soothing background to their conversation. It's hard to believe how much has changed, Tilara said, her voice thoughtful. It feels like just yesterday we were fighting for survival, and now we're here, witnessing the start of something new. Jake nodded in agreement. It's been a journey filled with challenges and triumphs. I've learned so much from this experience, and I'm grateful for everything we've accomplished together. Tilara glanced at Jake, her eyes filled with appreciation. You've been an incredible friend and ally, Jake. Your bravery and dedication have made a lasting impact on this city and on me. Jake smiled, touched by her words. And you, Tilara, have shown what true leadership and resilience look like. I've learned a lot from you as well. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Reinar, who joined them with a friendly nod. I see you two have found a peaceful spot. How are things going? Things are looking up, Tilara replied. The city is recovering well, and the people are finding their way back to normal life. Reinar nodded. It's thanks to the efforts of people like you. We're planning a ceremony to officially mark the end of the recovery phase and celebrate the new beginning for Valoria. We would be honored if you both would attend. T. Lyra and Jake looked at each other, both feeling a sense of pride and gratitude. "We'd be honored," Jake said. "It's a chance to celebrate the resilience of this city and the strength of its people." The ceremony took place a few days later, in the heart of the newly restored park. The area was decorated with banners and flowers, and the air was filled with excitement and anticipation. The Valorians gathered to commemorate their journey and look forward to a brighter future. T. Lara and Jake stood beside Rinar at the front of the crowd, their hearts swelling with pride as they looked out at the sea of smiling faces. The ceremony began with speeches from various leaders, including Rinar, who spoke of the city's recovery and the importance of unity and hope. The crowd cheered as T. Lara and Jake were recognized for their contributions. They received a special plaque, symbolizing their role in Valoria's resurgence. T. Lara and Jake accepted the honor with humility and gratitude, their hearts full of appreciation for the community's support. As the ceremony concluded, the celebration continued with music, dancing, and feasting. The atmosphere was joyful and vibrant, a testament to the city's recovery and the strength of its people. T. Lara and Jake joined the festivities, mingling with the Valorians and enjoying the sense of camaraderie and happiness. It was a fitting end to their journey, and a new beginning for Valoria. As the sun set over the city, T. Lara and Jake stood together, looking out over the park. The lights twinkled, and the sounds of celebration filled the air. "This has been an incredible experience," T. Lara said, her voice filled with contentment. "I'm proud of what we've achieved and hopeful for the future." Jake smiled, his eyes reflecting the same sense of hope. "Me too. It's been a journey full of challenges, but it's also been one of growth and friendship." T. Lara nodded. "Here's to new beginnings and to the enduring spirit of Valoria." Together, they watched as the city continued to celebrate, knowing that they had played a part in its remarkable recovery. The future was bright, and with each new day, Valoria would continue to grow stronger and more vibrant. And for T. Lara and Jake, their journey together was far from over. It was only the beginning of a new chapter in their lives.